Adorning the hills of central India is a rare jungle, an oasis in an otherwise rocky and unforgiving landscape, desolate and vast. With fables as old as time, its denizens will narrate stories of sacrifice and longing. Ancient forts now reclaimed by the forest, from which grow trees that whisper of kings past. And a slithering river that has nurtured bandits and heroes alike. This is the story of Kuno, the pride of the Vindhyas. "750 square kilometers of pristine wilderness, picturesque and full of wildlife. Breathtaking views and adventure at every turn. A lot has gone into making Kuno what it is today. As soon as you reach the park's gate at Tiktoli, you find yourself speaking of lions and the possibility of their arrival here. Once, not so long ago, Asiatic lions ruled the wilderness from Turkey to central India. With changing times and modernization, their habitat got limited to a fraction of what it used to be. A few isolated pockets have recorded their presence in erstwhile Gwalior state as recently as the 1850s. And finally, the last dwindling population found refuge in Gir. Following the prohibition on the hunting of Asiatic lions, their numbers saw a steady growth. But the Gir forest now faces the problems of plenty. It has reached a point where the lions have started venturing out of the protected areas. And yet, the biggest threats to the lions are the lions themselves. Because you see, the current population of Asiatic lions all come from the same family, exposing the species to all the risks related to genetic depression. For their long-term survival, conservationists realized they needed another home for the lions. Geographically isolated from Gir, which protects them from other dangers like possible viral outbreaks. After a detailed study that began in 1991, the Wildlife Institute of India came up with 3 potential forests that met the requirements. Out of those, Kuno looked the most promising due to its climate, prey base, and tree cover. The talk of bringing lions to this landscape is not new. In 1920, His Highness Madhavrao Scindia I was already working on an audacious plan befitting a Maharaja. The massive enclosures at Dobkund are a window to the past. Upon the king's royal decree, a few lions were brought here from Africa, which he planned to release into the wild. Though his dream of seeing lions once again prosper in this landscape didn't come to fruition as he had envisioned, his efforts were bold and trailblazing, to say the least. The walls of these huge enclosures still seem to echo with their soft rumblings, and the gorge outside resounds with their roar. Some even claim to hear the lions at night, a fantasy one wouldn't want to indulge in. But when the Forest Department officially started working on it, the goal was to create an inviolate space for the translocated lions, for which the 24 villages located inside the park, sheltering more than 1,500 humble households, had to be shifted. Their routine activities would disturb the cats, and likewise, a pride of lions lurking in the backyard would be a threat to the people and the safety of their cattle. An ambitious plan was laid out to execute the Herculean task of relocation of the villages. The offer to move from their native land was well received by the Saharias, a simple tribal group, and other communities living inside the forest. Although their land was fertile, living in these remote settlements inside a forest had numerous challenges. On the one hand, the river offered irrigation for farming. But on the other hand, the fractured landscape gave shelter to dacoits. And there are stories of people abandoning their village overnight to save their family's pride and the honor of their daughters from these bandits. A mass exodus of this proportion was possible mainly because of the cooperation of people like Sri Jagmohan Singh of Palpur House, who played a pivotal role in this effort. With the combined efforts of the Forest Department, village elders and community leaders, all 24 villages were successfully shifted to the park's fringes between 1998 and 2003. The villagers found a new home in organized settlements around Agra, which became a welcoming refuge to the 6,000 or so displaced villagers. Agra is still like a nucleus to the smaller villages around, and the resettlement of villagers happened in a clustered form, where the Forest Department could put concentrated efforts in developing necessary infrastructure like electricity and irrigation for more than 1,500 families. Inside the park, these abandoned village sites have now been taken over by scrub jungle and grasslands. Dilapidated remains of old houses can still be seen at various locations in the park. Yet, as you look at these ruins, it makes one feel humble and grateful at the sacrifice of the people who willingly left their homes to make way for wildlife. Also left behind are these magnificent fortresses. Keeping 500 years of secrets within its walls, Palpur Gadi, located on the banks of Kuno River, once served as sanctuary to Chandravanshi Raja Bal Bahadur Singh, who assumed the throne in the late 17th century. Looking at this imposing structure from across the flowing river at sunset is a wondrous sight. Amet Fort, now almost completely engulfed in shrubs, was also a part of their kingdom. And so was Maitoni, which was the first fortress to fall when the family came here from Karauli. With its massive arches and rickety walls, Maitoni looks straight out of your favorite fantasy novel. The folklore and tradition of this region is still protected at the ancient shrines of Dhuret Baba and Ran Singh Baba. These old and frail eyes, as deep as the gorge where the temple sits, they have waited for the arrival of a new ruler for far too long now. Back in the day, when bandits would frequently loot these humble households, villagers came up with the Morcha system to keep an eye out on approaching dacoits. Morcha would essentially be a watchtower situated at major junctions between villages that overlook the settlements day and night. Taking inspiration from this ancient technique, Kuno now has watchtowers at strategic locations dotted across the park to keep an eye out on potential threats. Standing as tall as a 5-story building on the edge of a cliff, they are definitely not for the faint-hearted. To create inviolate space for wild animals is just one aspect. In order to make them feel at home, they must be provided with food and water. Durendi is one such nursery where palatable grass is grown and nurtured, to be later made available to Kuno's herbivores. The river Kuno is the lifeline and the main source of water in the forest. Most other streams do not retain water in the summer. Upper reaches on both sides of the Kuno River suffer from water scarcity during the summer. At Kairkho, water from a natural spring, which could not be taken into any productive use, is now carried to various water holes with the help of a pipeline, using only gravity, to fill up several sources and ponds, clearly benefiting prey density. Although lions haven't arrived in Kuno yet, the jungle has greatly benefited from the conservation efforts. Sitting between the Aravalis and Madhav National Park, Kuno also serves as a very important corridor for movement of wild animals. Its proximity to Rajasthan's Ranthambore and Mukundara is beneficial to wildlife across political borders. Foray into the forest of Kardhai and Khair, and you see wildlife by the dozen, foraging across vast meadows. Some grasslands here are bigger than most at Kanha and Bandhavgarh. It is believed that Kardhai is a tree that turns green with just humidity even before the first monsoon showers arrive. And that is symbolic of Kuno's survival spirit, its never say die attitude. An oddity here is an isolated patch of teak forest, as if someone cut out a chunk of land from eastern Madhya Pradesh and placed it here as an ornament. Herds of spotted deer against the backdrop of Vindhyan hills is a sight to behold. And it is a paradise for birding enthusiasts. I am yet to see drongos as friendly as those in Kuno. As soon as biotic pressure was removed, nature bounced back. And from a herbivore density of 2.5 per square kilometers, it now stands at an astounding 65 per square kilometer. The original sanctuary of nearly 350 square kilometers was in the shape of a leaf, with the Kuno River as its spine, irrigating the forest from inside outwards. In 2018, another 400 square kilometers were added to it, and Kuno's status was upgraded to National Park, a prerequisite to host Asiatic Lions. In fact, Kuno National Park has the potential to hold populations of the tiger, the leopard, the Asiatic lion, as well as the cheetah. All four of the big cats, which once coexisted in the same habitats before they were wiped out due to various reasons. Casting a shadow is the nature of sunlight. The brighter the sun shines, the deeper the shadows form. The days when man ruled this land have passed, but the fortress of Palpur is now basking in a different kind of glory. Reclaimed by the forest, it is a playground for langurs by the day. And as the sun sets, these ancient ramparts are consumed by shadows. And a dark creature with royal rosettes assumes the throne. But he is only a prince, a caretaker. The fort, the forest, and all its denizens still await the arrival of its rightful monarch.